When solving problems in physics, it's good to have a general purpose solution idea of what you're going to do. And luckily, we can kind of apply the same strategy in a lot of disparate use cases. So first, we have to figure out what the problem is and how we're going to solve it. So we examine the situation, try and figure out which physical principles are involved, and make a list from what we know in the problem statement or what can be inferred from the problem statement and identify our knowns. So what do we start off knowing? And then again, from the problem statement, what are we trying to find? What do we need to determine? What are our unknowns? So knowns, unknowns, and then figure out what physical principle will help relate the things we know to the things we don't know in order to be able to plug in the things we know and solve for the things we don't know. So that's the basic idea. In doing that, a lot of times, one thing that's not listed explicitly here is that you want to draw diagrams. There are lots of different diagrams that can help just to get your mind around what's going on, to make it clear the different quantities. So never be afraid to draw diagrams and label things. And then you solve. This is the doing the math part, where you sometimes do algebra, you substitute in the knowns along with their units into their appropriate equation, and you try and get your final result with units. And then you ask yourself at the end, okay, what does this mean? What's the significance? So first thing, check your units. Frequently, your units will not work out because you made some math error, in which case you can go back and try and find that. So units can be your friend here. Check that the units are consistent and that they make sense and you get the units you expect at the end. And then also you can check if your answer is reasonable. Does it make sense? If you're trying to figure out like how fast the car is going and you get 1,000 miles per hour, does that make sense? Probably not. Probably if it's just a normal-ish car, it's not going to go 1,000 miles per hour. That doesn't make any sense. It's well over the any reasonable barrier, right? 100 miles per hour could make sense. 10 miles per hour, possibly, right? 0.032 miles per hour for a car? That's very, very slow. Like, that's not a normal driving car. And then you can also check to see whether the answer tells you something interesting and what does it mean. So think about, in doing this, you're starting off with some physical situation. You're trying to map your way through and how to relate the things you know to the things you don't know, and model it in a way that you can use physical principles to relate those, do some math, and then check to see, does this make sense? What does it mean?